Today, let me show you how I made this kitty cat cake. I'm gonna start with building the cake layers. Today we're working with a chocolate cake, and if you know me, I like to work with my frozen cake layers. I bake the cake and then I freeze the layers in cling wrap, and then when I'm ready to decorate, I take them out of the freezer, and I like to actually fill them cold and allow them just to defrost on their own in their due time. Then try to put the same amount of buttercream in each cake layer. So when you cut that cake, it looks very nice and even. Always use the back of the spatula to push the buttercream until the edges of the cake layers and make them really straight and even. Always move around your cake, get down to eye level and make sure it's straight. And as you may know by now that most cakes will take 2 layers of frosting. The first layer is called the crumb coat, and it's a very thin layer of icing. The crumb coat will really just lock in all the crumbs near the cake and won't let any of the crumbs get out onto the final cake design. We're going to do a crumb coat, put the cake in the fridge for 20 minutes or in the freezer for 10 minutes. Then when it's nice and chilled, you go ahead and put a bigger layer, a thicker layer of icing, and that is your final design layer. So I'm just going to go ahead and spread the frosting all over the cake and then move it up and down so I make sure there are no bubbles. Once I do that, I start smoothing the top. I make it really straight and even with the back of the offset spatula. And then I use the scraper to smoothen the sides of the cake. I try to hold it really straight and go slow. Every time I scrape, I have to clean off the scraper completely and then go ahead and scrape again. We're going to take more buttercream and fill all these gaps inside the cake. And we're going to keep scraping for a while until it's all nice and smooth. When you feel that you're finishing up scraping, you're going to keep the pressure on the cake really light. We're not pressing a lot. And as you can see, I keep the edges of the cake really high because I like to chop them off with the offset spatula. Every time you cut off the edge that's sticking up, you have to clean the back of the spatula. And again, use the back of the spatula and keep chopping off all the edges. Okay, now for the fun part, the decoration. The cat cake looks very much like the unicorn cake in terms of how we build the piping all around the top of the cake. First, I'm using tip number 1M from Wilton to do the biggest design elements on the cake. And that one large rosette that is hanging off the edge of the cake, that will be the front where I will put the face of the cat. Then I use tip number 4B from Wilton to do the second biggest design. That's how I like to build my cakes usually. I put the largest elements first, then the smaller and smaller and so on. Then I use the small tips to kind of fill in the gaps. So here I have a tip number 21 also from Wilton, and it has a light blue color, and I just kind of do these little stars to fill in all the gaps. I might go back and add large purple ones, rosettes, and so on. So I keep them all next to me, all the piping bags. And make sure you have enough buttercream in all the bags so you can go back and add wherever needed. So now I start putting the eyes. I've already cut out the eyes out of fondant. I put them both together first to see that they are aligned, and then I go back and put one by one. For the ears, I've made them out of gum paste. I left it to dry a little curled up, and I put a toothpick underneath so that they can stand up. Then I cut out a little heart shape for the nose and a few eyelashes, which I had to stick one by one. Then I added strips of black fondant for the whiskers. And there it is, the full kitty cat cake. Let me know what you think in the comments.